beard. Giving up this attempt, they rushed back along the lane with the intention of escaping at the north gate, but before ever they reached the head of the market-place, the roaring, wind-swept flames, leaping from hut to hut, had barred their path. They could not face that awful furnace. Now they took another counsel, and in a great confused body charged down the market-place to break out at the south gate, and our turn came. How we raked them as they sped across the open, an easy mark. I know that I fired as fast as I could, using 2 rifles, swearing the while at Hans because he was not there to load for me. Stephen was better off in this respect, for, looking round, to my astonishment I saw Hope, who had left her mother on the other side of the hill, in the act of capping his second gun. I should explain that during our stay in Beza Town we had taught her how to use a rifle. I called to him to send her away, but again she would not go, even after a bullet had pierced her dress. Still, all our shooting could not stop that rush of men, made desperate by the fear of a fiery death. Leaving many stretched out behind them, the first of the Arabs drew near to the south gate. "My father," said Mavovo in my ear, "now the real fighting is going to begin. The gate will soon be down. We must be the gate." I nodded, for if the Arabs once got through, there were enough of them left to wipe us out 5 times over. Indeed, I do not suppose that up to this time they had actually lost more than 40 men. A few words explained the situation to Stephen and Brother John, whom I told to take his daughter to her mother and wait there with them. The Mazitu I ordered to throw down their guns, for if they kept these I was sure they would shoot some of us, and to accompany us, bringing their spears only. Then we rushed down the slope and took up our position in a little open space in front of the gate, that now was tottering to its fall beneath the blows and draggings of the Arabs. At this time the sight was terrible and magnificent, for the flames had got hold of the 2 half-circles of huts that embraced the market-place, and, fanned by the blast, were rushing towards us like a thing alive. Above us swept a great pall of smoke in which floated flakes of fire, so thick that it hid the sky, though fortunately the wind did not suffer it to sink and choke us. The sounds also were almost inconceivable, for to the crackling roar of the conflagration as it devoured hut after hut, were added the coarse, yelling voices of the half-bred Arabs, as in mingled rage and terror they tore at the gateway or each other, and the reports of the guns, which many of them were still firing, half at hazard. We formed up before the gate, the Zulus with Stephen and myself in front, and the 30 picked Mazitu, commanded by no less a person than Bausi the king, behind. We had not long to wait, for presently down the thing came, and over it and the mound of earth and stones we had built beyond began to pour a mob of white-robed and turbaned men, whose mixed and tumultuous exit somehow reminded me of the pips and pulps being squeezed out of a grenadilla fruit. I gave the word, and we fired into that packed mass with terrible effect. Really, I think that each bullet must have brought down 2 or 3 of them. Then, at a command from Mavovo, the Zulus threw down their guns and charged with their broad spears. Stephen, who had got hold of an assegai somehow, went with them, firing a Colt's revolver as he ran, while at their backs came Bausi and his 30 tall Mazitu. I will confess at once that I did not join in this terrific onslaught. I felt that I had not weight enough for a scrimmage of the sort, also that I should perhaps be better employed using my wits outside and watching for a chance to be of service, like a half-back in a football field, than in getting my brains knocked out in a general row. Or mayhap my heart failed me and I was afraid. I dare say, for I have never pretended to great courage. At any rate, I stopped outside and shot whenever I got the chance, not without effect, filling a humble but perhaps useful part. It was really magnificent, that fray. How those Zulus did go in! For quite a long while they held the narrow gateway and the mound against the howling, thrusting mob, much as the Roman called Horatius and his 2 friends held the entrance to some bridge or other long ago at Rome against a great force of I forget whom. They shouted their Zulu battle cry of "Laba, Laba," that of their regiment, I suppose, for most of them were men of about the same age, and stabbed and fought and struggled, and went down one by one. Back the rest of them were swept. Then, led by Mavovo, Stephen and Bausi charged again, reinforced with the 30 Mazitu. Now the tongues of flame met almost over them, the growing fence of prickly pear and cacti withered and crackled, and still they fought on beneath that arch of fire. Back they were driven again by the mere weight of numbers. I saw Mavovo stab a man and go down. He rose and stabbed another, then fell again, for he was hard hit. 2 Arabs rushed to kill him. I shot them both with a right and left, for fortunately my rifle was just reloaded. He rose once more and killed a 3rd man. Stephen came to his support and grappling with an Arab dashed his head against the gate post so that he fell. Old Bausi, panting like a grampus, plunged in with his remaining Mazitu, and the combatants became so confused in the dark gloom of the overhanging smoke that I could scarcely tell one from the other. Yet the maddened Arabs were winning, as they must, for how could our small and ever lessening company stand against their rush? We were in a little circle now, of which somehow I found myself the centre, and they were attacking us on all sides. Stephen got a knock on the head from the butt end of a gun and stumbled against me, nearly upsetting me. As I recovered myself I looked round in despair. Now it was that I saw a very welcome sight, namely Hans, yes, the lost Hans himself, with his filthy hat whereof I noticed even then the frayed ostrich feathers were smouldering, hanging by a leather strap at the back of his head. He was shambling along in a sly and silent sort of way, but at a great rate with his mouth open, beckoning over his shoulder, and behind him came about 150 Mazitu. Those Mazitu soon put another complexion upon the affair, for charging with a roar they drove back the Arabs, who had no space to develop their line, straight into the jaws of that burning hell. A little later the rest of the Mazitu returned with Babemba and finished the job. Only quite a few of the Arabs got out and were captured after they had thrown down their guns. The rest retreated into the centre of the market-place, whither our people followed them. In this crisis the blood of these Mazitu told, and they struck to the enemy as Zulus themselves would certainly have done. It was over. Great Heaven! It was over, and we began to count our losses. 4 of the Zulus were dead, and 2 others were badly wounded. No, 3, including Mavovo. They brought him to me leaning on the shoulder of Babemba and another Mazitu captain. He was a shocking sight, for he was shot in 3 places and badly cut and battered as well. He looked at me a little while, breathing heavily, then spoke. "It was a very good fight, my father," he said. "Of all that I have fought I can remember none better, although I have been in far greater battles, which is well, as it is my last. I foreknew it, my father, for I never told it you. The first death lot that I drew down yonder in Durban was my own. Take back the gun you gave me, my father. You did but lend it me for a little while, as I said to you. Now I go to the underworld to join the spirits of my ancestors and of those who have fallen at my side in many wars, and of those women who bore my children. I shall have a tale to tell them there, my father, and together we will wait for you, till you too die in war." Then he lifted up his arm from the neck of Babemba and saluted me with a loud cry of "Baba" in Kosi, giving me certain great titles which I will not set down, and having done so, sank to the earth. I sent one of the Mazitu to fetch Brother John, who arrived presently with his wife and daughter. He examined Mavovo and told him straight out that nothing could help him except prayer. "Make no prayers for me, Dogeetah," said the old heathen. "I have followed my star," i.e. lived according to my lights, "and am ready to eat the fruit that I have planted, or if the tree prove barren, then to drink of its sap and sleep." Waving Brother John aside, he beckoned to Stephen. "O Wazela," he said, "you fought very well in that fight. If you go on as you have begun in time you will make a warrior of whom the Daughter of the Flower and her children will sing songs after you have come to join me, your friend. Meanwhile, farewell. Take this assegai of mine and clean it not,
that the red rust thereon may put you in mind of Mavovo.